Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
Today we're taking a look at Wine Cellar by 25th Century Games.
Wine Cellar is a game that is coming to crowdfunding from 25th Century Games, and they're actually running a crowdfunding campaign for several different games, and we're going to be having videos on all of those games. You'll want to check those out. Check the campaign page down below by clicking the link that's in the description after you watch this video. Now what we have here is Wine Cellar, which is a 1 to 8 player auction game in which you are going to be trying to collect bottles of wine. And with this game, it's very simple. You will have cards in your hand, different bottles of wine that have numbers on them. And you'll want to play cards that aren't going to necessarily fit into your line. And that's going to determine who gets to draft from the bottles that are available for that round to add to their wine cellars. It's a very simple game, but it is tricky. Let's go down to the table where I will show you how this game works, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, I have Wine Cellar on the table. Let me show you this bidding game in which you are wine sommeliers trying to get your best collection of wine bottles in the game. Now, with this game, I do want to make sure you understand that everything you see here is prototype, so the final artwork components and maybe even some of the rules might change once it's released from crowdfunding. That being said, what you have here with this game, you do have lots of wine bottle cards here. They're going to have different artwork, as you can see, a different type of wine that is indicated by the color of the bottle cap right here, as well as this icon right here. They're going to have numbers and countries of origin, as well as a number of points depending on what year of aging that you have allowed this bottle of wine to age. Just think of this as number of rounds because the game does last 8 rounds long. And as you can see, you have lots of cards here, lots of different bottles of wine in the game. And then you have these client cards, which are going to act as scoring agendas, or in other words, ways that you specifically are going to get points in the game. And as you can see, there's a lot of different cards here, and they're all drastically different from one another. And so that's going to add replayability and change up your strategy throughout the course of the game. Now, how this is going to work, you are going to reference the rulebook and see what cards you are supposed to be playing with depending on your player count, as denoted by this table right here. And so if we were setting up for a 4-player game, we would only use cards numbered 1 through 36, which are going to be these cards right here, and you can set the other cards off to the side. You would shuffle these up and deal 8 cards to each player, and whatever cards are going to be left in the center of the table, which would be 4 in this case because it's a 4-player game, you would leave them, again, face up in the center of the table. And obviously, I would have shuffled better than what you see here, as these numbers are all very close to one another. And then you would deal 2 client cards to each player, and each player would take a look at their two client cards after taking a look at their 8 wine cards that have been dealt to them, and choose one to keep for themselves. Now, this is a pretty good example of just how drastically different these client cards can be. Because on this particular one, you would get 2 points for every red grape bottle, like you have here with card number 30. As you can see, these are the same. And so I would get 2 points for this particular bottle if I had it in my cellar at the end of the game, whereas I would get 1 point for these golden leaf types. But bottles like this pink rose here, they're not going to get me any points. Now, taking a look down here, if I have 4 players in the game, which that's what we're playing with here, 3 to 4 players, then I am trying to get bottles from this particular country, as that would give me 3 points. And as you can see here, this is going to change depending on the number of players in the game. Now, taking a look at this card here, there are no specifications for different types of wine. It's just that I'm getting extra points if I get a particular country of origin, depending on my player count again. So you can see how this changes up the game for yourself. Each player is going to choose one to keep, get rid of the other one, and keep that secret from the other players. Now, taking a look at what bottles are out here in the open market, players will choose one card from their hand of cards secretly, playing it face down, and then all players will reveal their cards at the same time. The player whose bottle of wine is the highest number gets to choose first from those that are available in the market. There are no repeats, so there should never be any ties. And if I'm the person who's played the highest number, I would get to pick out of what I see out here. And maybe I pick this one right here. And then I put my card at the top here. That's going to be in the next open market. And then I take my bottle of wine and I set it sideways in front of me. And so now that I've selected this bottle of wine, more than likely I want to make this my year one bottle because that's going to get me the most points. And what I mean by year one is I'm going to keep my bottles of wine stacked in a line sideways like this. And as I get more bottles of wine, say it's round 2, I have to decide whether I'm going to put this bottle above it or below it. And so obviously I want to put it below it because it's worth most points in round 2. So I've got my round 1 and I've got my round 2, but here's the problem from this point forward when I draft more bottles of wine. If I'm sticking with this, that this is my year 1 bottle, I'm not going to place any more bottles above it. I'm just going to constantly have to place bottles at the bottom of the line. Now, I don't have to do that. I could place a bottle up here, but now I've made this my year 1 bottle, and this is my year 2 bottle. So you can see how this works. At no point can you split your bottles and put one in between ones that you've already drafted. You have to either put it at the beginning or you have to put it at the end. Now, as I mentioned, the bottles that you use for bidding then become bottles for the next round, and you then repeat the process. You draw one from your hand, and you take a look at it, and you play it, and whoever has the highest number is going to get to draft again in the next round. And that's pretty much how the game works. You're going to play 8 rounds, as there are 8 years for your bottles to be stacked, and then you'll look at your client card to determine how many points you have. Whoever has the most points is going to be the winner. Now, there are rules in the back of the rule book for how to play a solo game, as you can see right here. And pretty much how that's going to work is you're going to shuffle up 18 cards, numbers 1 through 18 specifically, and without looking at the cards, you'll deal them in 2 different decks of 9 cards each, and you'll choose one to play for yourself and one for the other player. It's actually 8 cards each because you leave 2 cards in the middle of the table. So you shuffle up 18 cards, deal 8 to you, deal 8 to the other player whose name is Eno, and then you get your client card, and you basically play against Eno, trying to get as most points as you can, going off of this score chart right here. And that's pretty much the gist of Wine Cellar. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Wine Cellar from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, first let's talk about that this is a auction kind of game. Yeah. And we don't really cover too many of those because that's just that's kind of a mechanic that just doesn't seem to work real well with our channel. But I think this one may be the exception to that. What was your experience?
Because of how quick it is, a lot of bidding games I feel like just tend to last a while.
Okay.
And this is a very quick game.
20 minutes, goes really fast, yeah.
And you're not bidding money at all. It's just
you're more bidding your cards, your bottles of wine.
Yeah. So I don't know, it just feels a little different than
it's a limited resource game, right? Like where your bottles of wine that ends up making your points in the game are what you bid or what you're giving away to get other things, like other bottles of wine. So there's only one real resource, and that's the bottles of wine. So you're getting rid of the ones that you don't like for maybe ones you do like, or you might get rid of some ones that you like. I mean, eventually you're going to have to get rid of everything. Yeah. But the idea being you want to, time it wisely when there's something out there that you really want to get that matches your scoring card to then spend your better bottles to get that. So what was that experience like for you?
We played 2 rounds. I think the first round we were really just kind of filling it out. I wasn't really sure what I wanted. You do have, each person has their own
scoring card,
what's agenda. Going to give them points. Mm-hmm. And I think the second round we all got very different types of scoring cards, and it kind of changed our way of playing. It was more focused on the color of wine versus the country they were from. And I think we just all played a little bit differently, and also having played one round previously, I think that helps. So it's just one of those games. It's super quick, so it's easy to play one, but it's one of those games where I think you need to play at least twice just to kind of get the feel of it. And then I had a hard time at first. What was that part?
Just because you can only ever add the bottles that you gain either to the front of your line or the end of your line. And by the line meaning number of years, right? Because as is the case with wine, you know, how long it's been stored is so important to the taste of it, right? And so like you've got your first year bottle of wine versus your 10th year bottle of wine, right? And so you can only ever put it at the beginning or the end. And once you build that line, you can't put anything in the middle. And that was kind
of difficult the first time figuring out how am I going to play this? Because I know I need this Italian wine because Italian wines get me more points, but the number does not fit in my line. So do I risk it to get points at the end, or do I wait and hope that I get something better?
Yeah, because you can only take certain, well, I mean, you can take anything anywhere, but according to your scoring card, you get more points if it fits in a certain spot in your line, right? And so you really want to get specific as to where's this bottle supposed to fit in my line, and you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into getting that perfect bottle of wine that's supposed to go at the end of your line and putting it there early in the game, because then from that point forward, you've got to play everything forward in front of it. So you can really kind of pigeonhole yourself in this if you're not careful.
But I also think the first time we played, we did not realize how quick of a game it was. And then the second time we're like, okay, I know this goes faster, so I know I need to make decisions a little bit quicker than waiting. So
it's a very interesting game, and it's one of those kind of games that, you know, like Sam said, there's surprises with it that on the surface you look at it and you think this is going to be a longer game, or this is going to be a game that's going to, you know, require super complex thinking, and it doesn't. It's a fairly straightforward game. I mean, it's a 20-minute game, but it's still super tricky. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. It definitely is one that has a lot of playability with it for the fact that it can be soloed at one player, and it's an auction game. That in and of itself is pretty unique. But it can also play all the way up to 8, and it's 20 minutes long, so there's a lot to like about this one. What did you think about it with non-gamers?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, it's very easy to understand and play, and it's so quick that even if they didn't get it the first time, you can kind of have a practice round and then play again. So I think that's always a good option for non-gamers.
The game is Wine Cellar. It is from 25th Century Games, and again, it's going to be running on crowdfunding with a lot of other games that you'll definitely want to check out, so make sure to click the link down below in the description of this video now that you've watched it.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push the bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.